Now, the Accra High Court has thrown out an application filed by Executive Secretary of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, COPET, Duncan Amoah, seeking to dismiss a defamation suit against him. The managing director of the bulk oil storage and transportation company, BOST, Alfred Obeng, dragged Mr. Amoah before the court, demanding 5 million cedis in damages for defaming him. The COPET boss had wanted the suit dismissed due to failure by the BOST MD to state his address in the writ, but this was not granted by the court. There is more in the following report.
The COPEC boss had alleged that persons connected to the BOST MD had threatened with death after he uncovered what he claimed was a shady deal at the company, costing the nation a revenue loss of 23 million cedis. Mr. Alfred Obeng, who heads BOST, filed a suit at the High Court describing the allegation as damaging to his reputation. He is demanding damages to the tune of 5 million cedis. Lawyers Executive Secretary Duncan Amoah is not perturbed by the court's decision.
We applied that the entire matter be thrown out completely. In the wisdom of the court, he's been given some 2 weeks to go and do corrections on his suit and return to the court. So for us, it's good news that at least the mistakes on there will not be allowed to stand.
The substantive defamation case remains before the court.
Now, female officers of the fire service will no longer be prohibited from getting pregnant within the first 3 years of their recruitment. This follows a latest High Court decision describing the age-long regulation as unjustifiable and illegal. The law provided for the dismissal of officers who failed to serve 3 years without getting pregnant. Justice Anthony Yeboah also ordered the service to reinstate the 2 persons who were dismissed as a result. Joining us is Joseph Akabli's details of the judgment and joins me in the studio with more on this. Now, Joseph, first give us the background to this story.
So the 2 individuals had been working in the fire service for some time. Then in the year 2014, both of them were pregnant. The fire service was aware of that. They decided to dismiss them following that regulation that provided that you cannot get pregnant when you get recruited within the first 3 years. They felt unhappy by the decision by the fire service. They contacted Shraj, and together with Shraj, they dragged the fire service to court.
So essentially, they decided to test the regulation. They wanted to test the law.
Yes.
And they won.
Yes. In fact, the judge, in his decision, he talks about the fact that it's not something that is very usual. He said that it appears to be the first time the issue of discrimination on the ground of gender has come up for determination. He went on to say that the Human Rights Division has never been confronted with such a matter. Therefore, not much is available in terms of help from our existing decisional law. And that left the court with no option than to look at international treaties that Ghana had signed onto to determine this particular matter. So they argued that the Ghana's constitution is very clear. It is against discrimination. You shouldn't discriminate against an individual based on race, ethnic group, or gender. So they felt they had been discriminated against and wanted to be reinstated. But the fire service lawyers argued against that position. They said that as far as they are concerned, when you are recruited into the fire service, within the first 3 years, the training is very rigorous. Once you get pregnant, you may lose your baby. So they want to prevent that, for which reason they decided to sack you when you get pregnant. But the court didn't agree with them and held that that particular regulation was illegal, was illegitimate, was unjustifiable, for which reason they decided to order their reinstatement.
So are they just being reinstated, or they're getting some compensation?
They are supposed to be paid 50,000 cedis each. They are going to be paid 10,000 cedis for cost in terms of the legal fees and then any other costs that may have arisen in the course of this particular trial. Apart from that, they are to be paid their salaries from 2014 as they may have earned, and the relevant promotions if some may have come up during that period that they served in the fire service. So those are the main issues that has come up in terms of it. But what is interesting for many people is the fact that we understand that that is the situation. That regulation appears to exist in the other regulations that guide the other security agencies. So with this clarity that has come from the court making such pronouncements, it is expected that those services may take a cue, because if they fail to hit to that and decide to go ahead and dismiss such individuals, they may have to face them in court, and this time around that court to have a precedent to rely on.
All right. Thank you very much, Joseph Akable, bringing us that update. And the story is that two officers of the fire service who were dismissed because they got pregnant in the first 3 years of their recruitment into the service have been to court to test the law, and the law, or the courts, has decided that they be reinstated and paid compensation of 50,000 cedis each. We were hoping to get to speak, get a bit more clarity as far as this ruling is concerned, because it has implications across the other security agencies, and we will be coming back to this story. Now, moving on, the Ghana Police Service says it has questioned a number of officers as part of investigations to establish its men alleged to have brutalized Joy News' journalist Latif Idris. The officers are mainly those deployed to deal with protesters at the CID headquarters during the arrest of NDC Deputy General Secretary Kokwaa Aidoo. An X-ray scan of Latif's head has revealed serious fractures. We'll be hearing from the police in a bit, but Joy News said it's Fifi Kumsing has a wrap of events following the story. In our very first story, Deputy General Secretary of the National Democratic Congress, Kokwaa Aidoo, is in police custody.
That was the story that drew scores of people onto the streets near the police headquarters here in Accra. Joy News was there.
We are demanding the release of Kokwaa Aidoo. Clearly from the background, or what you see from the background, the supporters of the NDC are not happy. They are not happy with the situation.
But while our reporters went about their work, telling the world about the development, Joy News' Latif Idris was attacked, not by protesters, but by the police.
He slapped me and then pushed me towards a crowd of police personnel who had gathered at the entrance of the headquarters. And that was it. All of them, not asking any question, what have you done? They all started beating me up, pushed me in. My camera technician, I shouted and asked him to start filming. Just when he raised his camera to film, they approached him, snatched the camera from him and pushed him away. Then they pushed me inside. That was it. Everybody started pouncing on me. They beat me up with sticks, with their legs, with their gun. They used the back of the gun to hit my head.
Those beatings left Latif in a terrible situation. He's now living with fractures in his skull.
Another CT scan of my skull and my brain because there's that fear. Once there is a fracture, it could also add.
The police service has vowed to investigate this. The Interior Minister, Ambrose Derry, has apologized for the assault on Latif.
We would want moving forward to minimize those things, and I'm very sorry about what has happened. I apologize on behalf of the government. But
the multimedia group is pushing for justice. Nana Elegba is head of human resource.
What worries me a bit, and I don't know if it's fair to Latif, is that the final diagnosis is worrying.
And members of the fraternity would not look on unconcerned while one of their own is battered and bruised. GJA President Afe Moni.
All of us are bleeding profusely from the attack inflicted on Latif. Our meeting, after meeting the IGP, we shall unfold our next line of action.
CEO of the Chamber of Telecommunications, Ken Ashigbe.
The attack on journalists is the attack on the media freedoms of our very selves as Ghanaians.
And colleague journalists sum it all up with this.
Now, if in the course of doing this job, I am assaulted, that is offensive not only to my person, but to the Constitution of the Republic, which guarantees the freedom of my job. Our job is guaranteed in a whole article in the 1992 Constitution. Now,
it's unacceptable and must be condemned in all, in all measures. It must be condemned. Ghana Police Service, you have offended the media fraternity in Ghana.
Every day we wake up, eat to protect and serve. But if you can't do that, tell me what's your job work? Now you got a bad rep. You beat and shoot people, then go home to your wife.
Well, Director General of Public Affairs at the Ghana Police Service, ACP David Aidoo, says some officers have been questioned as part of investigations currently underway. He spoke with me in an interview, several broadcasts on the Ghana Police Watch program, which will air on the Joy News channel on Monday at 6 p.m.
Very regrettable incident, having listened to Latif and having spoken to him personally about what happened. And there are two dimensions in this case. If it is intentional, then that becomes an assault.
Okay.
Yes. But if it is in the course of the work of the police officer trying to keep the crowd at bay, then that becomes a different thing. Our Professional Standards Bureau would also look at the professional aspect of it. Was a police officer professional? Was the level of force used as described by Latif appropriate to the simple question that what is the name of this? Let me repeat that it doesn't justify the level of force that was used on Latif. And since the case is still under investigations, let us wait for that report to come. It will be interesting to look at the whole investigative report, and that can also be used as lessons learned.
So it's been some 4 weeks since Latif was assaulted. Now, on that very program, the Ghana Police Watch program, which will be airing on Monday next week, Latif, because of his health, couldn't make it into the studio, and he had to join the discussion via Skype. And in that footage, the very latest footage that we have of Latif, you could see that he had his neck being braced up. He had his neck in a collar. But that show will be airing next week, Monday. Now, the multimedia group is demanding that the police speed up investigations. Here are some of Latif's colleagues pushing for justice for him.
They are expecting that the police administration will be able to bring to book these officers who they employ, who they also sent to control the crowd at the police CID headquarters. We were all here when we had Kwabenya cell break. Within hours, in fact, less than 2 days, we heard the police had been able to find these people who went there. I can't understand. It's taking them 4 good weeks. We're saying that they should bring these people out. Justice must be served. And justice delayed, we know, is justice denied.
It's frustrating to realize that the police are not going at the speed that we expected that they would go to get resolution to this matter. Because it's one thing to be brutalized, but when you find that the persons who are supposed to hold those who brutalize you accountable are not doing that, then it leaves you wondering what is happening. So I think what we can say at this point is that we want justice for Latif.
If the very people who are supposed to protect us are hurting us, in this manner, I honestly think it's scary. So for me, it scares me a lot if I think about the situation that my colleague Latif Idris is in now. It really scares me, a lot. They say that the wheels of justice grind slowly, but honestly, I think it's grinding slower than usual. So I say justice for Latif, justice for my colleague.
We heard stories about policemen being murdered, being manhandled unfairly by, citizens. And in weeks, in fact, in days, culprits are found and they're put to book. So one question I want to ask them is what's different about this case? This is a journalist. The way he's been treated is very unfair, and I demand justice quickly for Latif.
We need to condemn this barbaric act by the police administration. I was with him on the beat on that day. It could have been me. We demand justice for Latif.
He goes to work and returns with head injuries, serious damages to his head, and we don't know how long he's going to have to live with that. We at Multimedia are demanding justice. Journalists must be free to do their work. Journalists must be free to protect the society. Justice for Latif, that's what we're asking for.
And I must say that I do stand with Latif, and I agree with my colleagues that we're demanding justice for Latif. And this is especially because on the night when he was assaulted, he had gone out under my instructions to go bring coverage that was going to enrich this very bulletin you're watching right now. And that's why I stand with him. And that's why I'm asking that the police do all they can and as quickly as possible to ensure that Lateef gets the justice he deserves. We're taking a break here on Joy News Prime. Still ahead, anti-gay rights group vows to resist attempts by Western powers to pressure government to review Ghana's laws on homosexuality and threaten to push for the removal of any president who yields.
If any African or Ghanaian leader pushes this agenda on our throats, we will pray and our God will remove that leader. In fact, he will not even be president of this country. And if he is president, he will be removed.
In Sampa Valley, cry for police protection following incessant attacks from robbers who show no mercy.
We heard shouts and screams from a distance and we came out to meet the confrontation.
We're back with all that and more. Stay tuned. Now, the National Coalition for Proper Human Sexual Rights and Family Values is demanding President Akufo-Addo publicly declares his stance against homosexuality. At a news conference in Accra, the coalition said it will resist any attempt by foreign powers to change Ghana's laws on homosexuality. The news conference comes on the back of what appears to be a new drive by Western powers to pressure African countries to review their anti-gay laws. Nancy Emefajira-Dozie was there in our reports.
The British Prime Minister Theresa May, while addressing the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in London a week ago, openly asked members to overhaul anti-gay laws in their country. Executive Secretary of the National Coalition for Proper Human Sexual Rights and Family Values says President Akufo-Addo must publicly declare his stance against homosexuality.
We think that he has a moral and spiritual obligation to speak clearly, unequivocally in respect of this matter. When he's the head of state, what is he doing? He's representing Ghanaian culture, what we believe in, how we eat, how we behave, and the things that we do. When he's doing that, it has nothing to do with his own personal beliefs. So we're urging him, Mr. President, represent Ghanaians for what we believe in.
They are also threatening to remove any president who will bow to the international pressure to legalize homosexuality.
They will not use LGBT rights as foreign diplomacy and force it down our throats, because we will reject it. And if our leaders kowtow to these people, we will reject our leaders as well. And we say so emphatically. We are not afraid. If any African or Ghanaian leader pushes this agenda on our throats, we will pray and our God will remove that leader. In fact, he will not even be president of this country. And if he is president, he will be removed. The people of Ghana will speak.
They are further calling on Foreign Affairs Ministry and the entire government machinery to be wary of countries in the international community who may want to lure them into accepting this. Nancy Emefajira-Dozie, Joy News.
Nuala Pasta, who says he has conducted research into what he describes as commercialization of the Christian faith, has also waded into the discussion of whether or not Ghana should decriminalize same-sex relations. At a news conference, head pastor of Living Testimonies for Jesus Bible Ministry, Pastor Samson Joe Benning, believes that matter must be dealt with spiritually rather than physically.
From a biblical perspective, only a little could be done about this, because the Bible says all these manifestations will come into play. In fact, it will be very difficult for anybody to tell you these things could be stopped just like that. Initially, in a nation like Ghana, in a given body politic, anywhere in the world, say Ghana and other nations in Africa, because we so much frown on this behavior due to cultural factors, does not mean these laws will not take place. In some nations, it could spark off political crisis or social crisis. But I have to be frank with you. The Bible says end-time apostasy will be such that it will be a replay of the scenario in Sodom and Gomorrah. A lot of covert efforts are being made to even quickly bring these habits or these factors into play.
The mother who beat her 8-year-old to death has been arrested by the police and is currently being prepared for court. The Korle Bu District Police has apprehended the 38-year-old woman at Korle Gono in Accra following a tip-off. There's more in this report by Adom TV's Prince Owusu.
Information available to police indicate that Latele Mensah has 4 children but has been separated from her husband. Her daughter, Tini Sani, was reportedly battling with a chronic skin disease and stayed with her father, who brought her to Latele, her mother, when her condition deteriorated. On March 27, Sani could not cover up her vomit with sand as instructed. Her infuriated mother then beat her to death. Sensing danger after her actions, Latele Mensah purportedly sought help from 2 of her friends to bury her dead daughter at midnight. The police, following the tip-off, apprehended Latele at her residence at Korle Gono, from where she led them to the spot where she buried her daughter, a place near Lavender Hill. Briefing the media, the Korle Bu District Police Commander DSP Theophilus Isilfi said Latele's accomplices identified as Adoko and Ebenezer Ano, Latele's supposed boyfriend, are on the run.
We are trying to arrest those who helped her bury the child. We are on the run, but we are still searching. We will not relent until we find them. We will ensure the Lord deals with them ruthlessly. The woman is currently in our custody and being prepared for court. She has been charged with murder and hindrance of inquest. The pathology report will help us with the investigations.
The suspect is currently being prepared for court. Prince Owusu's report for Joy News.
Again, good evening. Time now for business. The Volta River Authority VRA boss, Emmanuel Dakwa, says the company's mounting debt situation is currently under control as government's intervention has worked effectively. Speaking at the launch of the company's 57th anniversary here in Accra, Mr. Dakwa also noted the VRA's decision not to purchase crude oil for power generation has also inured to the benefit of the company's finances. He was speaking in an interview after the launch of the 57th anniversary celebration. Karen Dodu reports.
The VRA was established on April 26, 1961, with a mandate to generate, transmit and distribute electricity. The authority operates a total installed generation capacity of 2,436.5 megawatts from the 2 hydroelectric plants in Akosombo and Kpong, as well as a number of thermal facilities. The theme for this year's celebration is the new VRA, Powering the Future. Chief Executive Officer of the authority, Emmanuel Dakwa, explained that government's effort at settling the company's debts together with the company's own strategy is working effectively.
There was a recent issue of the ESLA bonds. Out of 4.7 billion Ghana cedis that was realized, roughly 2.4 billion was used to liquidate our debts, what we consider to be our legacy debts. That's improved our business. Our balance sheet has completely changed. Now we can do the business much better than we used to be. We are in a more financially healthy position than we used to be. So the debt issue was there. The debt issue is being addressed. That's not to say that it's been completely addressed because, eventually the government will raise 10 billion. So far, the government has raised 4.7 billion. So as additional flows come in, the debt will be liquidated. We are not accumulating debt.
And how are you making this possible?
Well, we've introduced a number of things. We have better cost control than we used to have. Our ability to run on gas and gas alone has helped because gas prices are predictable now. It's determined by the PURC and it stays that way. In the good old days when we're running on light crude oil, we're left to the global market on what crude oil prices were, and they were all over the place. So that was part of the reason why we ran into our financial difficulties, because once the prices started spiking and we didn't have the necessary adjustment in tariffs so that we could recover our costs, it led to an accumulation of debt.
On his part, Deputy Chief Executive of the VRA, Kofi Ellis, says there is the need for energy to be persistently conserved.
The solution to eradicating energy challenges in Ghana, like experienced during the days of power shortage, is not only to produce more electricity, but to cultivate the habit of using electricity judiciously. Ladies and gentlemen, do you know that by simply turning off lights when not in use, unplugging unused devices such as television, computers, air conditioners from their sockets, and engaging in bulk ironing can make a huge difference in the electricity bill and save you a lot of money. This is the power of energy conservation.
As part of its anniversary celebrations, the authority awarded some basic school pupils. They took part in a quiz competition organized by the authority earlier this year. Reporting for Joy Business, Karen Dodu.
The Institute of Energy Security says the decision by government to select indigenous oil marketing company GOIL to lead implementation of the gas cylinder recirculation program is laudable. Sharing his thoughts on the marketplace earlier, principal researcher of IES, Richmond Roxon, said despite promoting local content, the situation can also lead to some job losses if not handled carefully.
Over the period, the NPA have noticed that we're going to have the cylinder recirculation model. It has had cabinet approval. There have been challenges, especially with stakeholders complaining that enough consultation had not been done. Over the period, more consultations have been done. We've had experts coming to the country. Recently, we had some Indians also coming into the country to deliberate with the National Petroleum Authority on the way forward. But even though there are challenges, especially when it comes to job losses, the long and short is that we are trying to prevent explosions, and we have said that the consultations must still go on. It is fair that we engage the LPGMC to be able to tackle the issue, to make sure that we are going to deal with the job losses that is going to come with it, especially investments that people have also done, so that at the end of the day, we won't have people folding up or making losses.
All right.
So yes, with oil coming in, yes, it's an indigenous company. It means that the investments are going to be in Ghana. As they said yesterday, they are still at the appraisal stage and they are looking to invest about 15 million Ghana into the sector.
Away from energy, management of newly rebranded Republic Bank has at an annual general meeting passed a resolution to increase the bank's stated capital by an additional 225 million cedis through a proposed rights issue. The objective is to ensure the bank meets the central bank's minimum capital requirement of 400 million cedis by the end of 2018. Charles Aite reports.
Speaking at the annual general meeting of the Republic Bank, hitherto known as HFC Bank, board chairman Charles Williams-Werner says the fate of the bank in meeting the capital requirement will solely be dependent on shareholders.
In compliance with the new minimum capital requirement of 400 million cedis by December 2018, the bank is pursuing a further 255 million cedi rights issue to be executed in the 2018 financial year. Fellow shareholders, we need to put our bank on a sound footing this year by raising additional capital.
Management of the bank says the 225 million cedis right issue for the minimum capital requirement of 400 million will result in no dividend payment for shareholders.
A greater focus on the risk analysis before we advance monies would give us a greater efficiency, and our profits will certainly continue to rise. We posted a 45 million CD profit after tax, and we are expecting to go far higher than that in the next few years by better management, more efficient.
Meanwhile, some shareholders of the bank have been speaking to Joy Business about the decision not to pay dividends by management. They shared varied views.
We are thinking that as the bank is progressing, shareholders are expecting that come 2018, that is this year, come next year, when we are considering that of 2018 accounts, we will pay some dividends.
Because the price appreciation has gone up. So if you sell some of your shares, you get money. And that is better than dividend, because the dividend government will tax you again, you see. And they gave us reduced price to buy shares. So why you don't buy more shares and then you sell it at a higher price?
The annual financial statement of HFC Bank shows that it recorded profits after tax of 45.43 million cedis after 2 successive years of losses. The AGM was aimed, among other things, at appointing new external auditors, amending the company's regulations by special resolution, and the ratification and election of directors.
And First Atlantic Bank has advanced moves to attract new investors in rights issue as a strategy to help meet the new capital requirement before the deadline set by the Bank of Ghana. It hopes to achieve this target by June this year. The Bank of Ghana has given up to December for all universal banks in the country to raise their minimum capital to $400 million. Managing Director of the bank, Odu Udumfa, spoke with Joy Business after a breakfast meeting organized by the bank on business diversification for some selected high-end customers.
For First Atlantic, we started the journey to increasing our capital well before the Bank of Ghana came out with its directives. We had a plan, which we've had to accelerate, but thankfully we're on our way to meeting the capital requirements by June at the latest. It's a combination of rights issue to existing shareholders and the private placement to new investors. And we're well advanced in that program, and we're very confident that by June we'll be done. Indeed, as we announced early in the year, we got money in from a private equity firm, and so the shareholders base for the bank is diversified, and we have people there with deep pockets, and they have made commitments to us, which we know they will keep like they've kept in the past, and the plan is unfolding very well. We have no issues at all. We would make the necessary announcements at the right time, and First Atlantic would definitely transit to a higher status.
Raising money from the market, as you said, are we also looking at other investments outside the market?
Yeah, there are various options, but at this stage of fundraising for our capital, we have to be clear in our minds where it's coming from. If you're not clear by now, you're not likely to succeed. So we're very clear. Existing shareholders are bringing money. Identified new investors are bringing money, and it's going very well.
And that's all we have for you by way of business tonight. Thank you very much for watching. There's more news ahead. Don't go away.
Imagine living each day with a threat to your life and property from deadly robbers, regardless of the time of day. That's the dilemma of hundreds of residents at Sampa Valley near Weija in the Ga South municipality who have been terrorized by robbers on a daily basis. 4 attacks have been recorded in 3 days, with 2 people killed in the process. The latest attack, carried out in a private school, left the school director sustaining gunshot wounds. But it's a gruesome murder of the pastor of the White Cross Church that left residents crying for police protection. My colleague Komladom visited the area, and here's his report.
10:11 and I take gunshot. And I'm afraid about so much gunshot. So we were thinking, say, a few people.
We had gunshots, and we came out to look at what was happening. We found the pastor lying in a pool of blood. I saw 2 gunshot wounds in his back, so we rushed him to the hospital.
At the sound of gunshots, some neighbors poured out to the scene.
It's a software, OTTM, Frey. It's your honor as we had Imrika, a buyer. Your banner Toyota mattress with the house. The general honor me come home. And I say, my man, here too. Also, I beg, one man they smoke for the top there. I say, that one they cool. The honor me say me also me feel strong, me feel strong now. Ma one issues na and me transfer my car no. Na tuning na far ho. To no not done no no hear me. Honor me the man wo never ha no. To two another ha. Also two last one another ha.
We had shouts and screams from a distance and we came out to meet the confrontation.
The second one man of tough.
But it's the narration of 28-year-old daughter of the deceased, Naomi Asantewa, who was with her dad when the robbers struck, that's got residents the more terrified.
Had people screaming, "Pasta, pasta," and came out only to see my father lying in a pool of blood. This was around 10:50 p.m. I became terrified and started screaming for help. There was a taxi driver around, so we asked him and rushed to Akawe Hospital. When we arrived at the hospital, they asked us to transfer him to the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, where he was confirmed dead. I later went to the police station to give my statement. The rate of robbery attacks in our area these days is very alarming.
Later on, me bag be more meti nice near the idea for the betra ocean of Monsieur Pasta near the idea and go and say, or no, so a 2 day.
Family members, neighbors, and friends of the deceased have been visiting his home to commiserate with them. Residents say the robbers spare no one, not even livestock are safe.
Dear Sampa Valley had the ammo hard train. Every day and night in ammo hard train. In Coco, in Ponte, Nyama, had the dorso.
For Helen, Naomi, and Harry, the only way out of a situation is increased police patrols and visibility in the area, which has become notorious for all sorts of attacks, day and night.
Very much frightened. And in 3 days, 4 robbery attacks in the area. It makes us feel so much unsafe.
And you understand someone has even died in the process?
Yes, 2 people actually have died. One pastor and another guy that they robbed and picked a taxi from him. So we would want the government to increase police.
How about the other residents and your neighbors? How are they dealing with all of this?
Everybody is afraid. We need the presence of the police much in this area.
Sampa Valley is just one of the areas recently affected. At a private school at Barria, a school director and his driver were shot by 2 gun-wielding men on motorbikes who demanded they handed over monies they had just withdrawn from the First Atlantic Bank on a sunny Wednesday afternoon.
11 to 12 na car no eba na motor susun edi achiri into ombe cross so anim e tese no mo edutututu say bring the brown envelope no mo kenti papa no mo shoot ni wie na omo fa envelope no mo je car kim to kan na po mo koy.
It was a daylight robbery. 2 people on a motorbike chased the school director and demanded he brought the money. They shot the 2 occupants and sped off with the money.
What happened again?
Omo frɛ a police for by na school for throw inside don't na police ba kon to no frɛ na for police for mobile no mo e be hwɛ bibia no fa car no e de koy mo shoot ne nsa na driver no so ne nan ene ordinance say agi tuo ni bi nsa yam ene ne nan say no driver no no pray ba school and ne nsa pe.
Following the 4 attacks which have left 2 people killed, 2 others severely injured, residents are unanimous in their call for increased security in the area, even as family of the deceased prepare to bury their dead. The Weja police has confirmed the incident, assuring a hunt is on for the perpetrators of the crimes.
The Accra Region Police, meanwhile, says it is deploying more men to these areas to combat crime following the recent attacks. While investigations into the attacks are ongoing. Public Affairs Officer DSP Fiatenge has been speaking with Gifty and Appear on the Pulse.
We've had a number of robberies that have occurred within Wija, of which the Sampa Valley that we speak about is also part. And for now, we have about 2 reported cases. And apart from the 2 reported cases, yesterday we had an unfortunate incident of a proprietor of a school who was trailed from the bank, and he was robbed at the entrance of the school.
We're going to Parliament now, where government is expected to withdraw the RTI bill laid before the House last month and relay a gazetted copy. This follows a determination by the Constitution and Legal Affairs Committee as well as the Communications Committee that the bill is not of urgent nature and must be taken through the normal processes. Joseph Opoku Gakpo joins us live with more on this. Hello, Joseph.
Israel, if you can hear me, in fact, the said document has been withdrawn and relayed as I speak to you. The House agenda a few minutes ago, the explanation was that the earlier document that was laid hadn't been gazetted, and so there was the need for the right thing to be done subsequently. Let's get a quick clarification on that. The Member of Parliament for Finso South, he's Chairman of Parliament Subsidiary Legislation Committee. He joins us. Constitutional and Legal Affairs Committee. Was this avoidable to the extent that the document was laid, today was withdrawn and relayed? Could that have been avoided? The minority warned you against this earlier.
No, I think it's all part of a parliamentary process. A bill may be laid under a certificate of agency, and that is not the be-all and the end-all of it. The Speaker will have to refer same to the appropriate committee, and in this particular case, this is what the Speaker did. And when the committee met, we came to the conclusion that this bill, given the interest it has generated, given the fact that it is of much public interest, we ought not to treat it under the certificate of agency. Okay. We have to take it through the normal legislative process.
So to the extent that you withdrew the earlier document and relayed a fresh one, how does that affect the processes to get this bill passed as soon as possible?
It hasn't much affected the process, because we had already planned to engage the public on the 7th and 8th, and we knew that whatever be the case, members of the 2 committees will not agree to the passage of the bill under a certificate of agency. Even when the bill was laid under the certificate of agency, a day after, we started receiving memoranda from the public, which therefore should tell us that the public is not even interested in seeing the passage of the bill under the certificate of agency. So it is not out of place that the committee decided, in tandem with the views of the public, that the bill ought to be taken through the normal legislative process. So on the 8th and 9th, the committees have decided to engage the public. And then on the 9th and 10th, the committee will then proceed to a convenient place to holistically look at the bill and treat it clause by clause.
And Parliament got it approved soon after you returned from the break, early in the middle of May, I guess?
It is our plan that before Parliament resumes on the 15th, the committee would have finished its work and we would have prepared our report and made it ready for debate before the plenary.
We'll see how that goes. Many thanks for joining us. The Honorable Ben Abdallah is the Member of Parliament for the Offensive South constituency. He's Chairman of Parliament's Constitutional and Legal Affairs Committee. Apart from the RTI bill that was withdrawn and relayed, and the committee is continuing its work on it, the African Free Continental Trade Agreement as well has been ratified by the House. The expectation was that they would go through the process today and tomorrow, but the Trade and Industry and Tourism Committees, they met earlier in the day and brought a report recommending that that particular agreement be ratified. And so a few minutes ago, that was again ratified by Parliament, which would allow for the country and other 43 African nations to set up a free trade agreement and a free trade system within the African sub-region. That was also dealt with a while ago. And so the House has adjourned indefinitely until they return officially from their break sometime in the middle of May. Israel.
All right, thank you very much, Joseph Opoku Gakpo, bringing us that update from Parliament. Meanwhile, the minority in Parliament says government's decision to hand over ECG to Meralco in a concessionaire agreement will not benefit the country. They say the company does not have any Ghanaian shareholder, despite a promise by government that locals will own at least 51% of the firm that takes over. Minority spokesperson on energy, Adams Mutawakilu, is also warning
companies will own 51%. Has been announced, we've heard of Ore Meralco Consortium. Yes, they should come up with the details. Who are the companies, Ghanaian companies, that owns the 51%? We will request that they come out with details. Transparency is the key to getting cooperation from all stakeholders. It is evident, and from what we've gathered, that the foundation projects, that is the money coming from the Millennium Challenge Corporation, the investment in the infrastructure is only in Greater Accra. And that is quite worrying. We all know that ECG operate in 6+ regions. Now, if all this investment from the Millennium Challenge Corporation is going to be invested in Greater Accra, is the Meralco coming to just concentrate more on Accra and milk and then go away and leave the other regions? I thought that the foundation project should spread around to equitably. What is the critical role that ECG play? As we come out, it is not well defined what ECG will be playing as an energy ranking, and therefore the minority side. It is our responsibility, first of all, to let Ghanaians know. If the government decides to go forward, we need to put pressure on the government to reconsider its decision. And if government refuses to take our views and there are messes on the way, we hold government responsible for that.
Now, before we bring you Join Us Interactive, the mother of the baby that was stolen in Kumasi will have to wait a while longer to be reunited with the child. It's been 3 weeks since police retrieved the unidentified woman's 4-month-old baby from foster parents whom social workers had sold her in the central region. She has been hoping to be reunited with the child following arrest of 2 officials of the social welfare department behind the scandal. However, police are unsure when that will happen. Let's get on to the phone lines now and speak with Ashanti region correspondent Ohiming Teria for more on this development. Hello, Ohiming, do we know why it's taking that long for the mother to be reunited with her baby?
Yes, Israel, we do know, because according to police sources, they want to keep the baby as an exhibit or evidence before the law court, because definitely when the issue is called in court, as they start prosecution, the court will want to demand whereabouts of this baby. So police want to keep the baby to their chest and ensure that the prosecution of these 2 suspects, who are senior officers from the Department of Social Welfare in the Ashanti Regional Headquarters, are brought to book.
All right, thank you very much, Ohiming. I would leave it here. And that was Ohiming joining us via Skype from. Time now for a look at our top stories. The High Court has quashed the long-standing regulation prohibiting female fire officers from getting pregnant in the first 3 years of their recruitment into the service. The implications of the ruling, however, stretches beyond the fire service, as we're learning that the other security agencies apply the same regulation. Human rights group anti-gay rights group vows to resist attempts by Western powers to pressure government to review Ghana's laws on homosexuality and threatening to push for the removal of any president who yields. Residents of Sampa Valley cry for police protection following incessant attacks from robbers who show no mercy. In business, VRA boss confirms government's intervention in managing energy sector debt together with companies' own cost lowering strategy has resulted in a significant reduction of VRA's total debt situation. And Ghana Police Service promises to pursue case of alleged assault of journalist reporter Latif Idris by its officers even as his colleagues push for justice for him.